Is it happening again? Is GameStop going to the moon? I'm not going to lie. I've already been tempted to short this thing, but maybe I'm just the bad guy. GameStop is up 50% in the pre-market here. And if you guys remember the good old days, 2021, this thing went to the moon. It went crazy in 2021, 2020, 2021, as everybody was sitting at home in the pandemic. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, just from the hype around GameStop, a lot of people are jumping in long, getting excited. I think there was like something about the guy, the Roaring Kitty guy, that initially spiked the hype in the stock back in 2021. Is that right? Yeah, right at the turn of the year, 2021, people got so overly bullish on GameStop, which is a terrible company, in my opinion, that is outdated and nobody buys their video games in stores anymore. And call me a boomer, call me a lame, fun sucker, but I think I might actually short a little GameStop today. Kind of an evil, I'm not the evil hedge funder, I promise, but I can't help but say I think that this is potentially, in my opinion, not financial advice, might be some free money, in my opinion. Again, could be totally wrong, could go up to $50 a share, but I'm thinking about taking a small short position on GameStop off of the hype basis here this morning. I'm going to watch it out of the gate. Got a couple minutes here. Again, I don't usually trade stocks, but this is a very one-off sort of situation. You get these big jumps in the price of a meme stock. Reddit is probably going crazy right now. And so I think that in the short term, you may see the price squeeze a bit higher. So I'm going to watch this one. But, I'm not going to lie. The idea of buying puts on GameStop a few months out sounds really attractive in my personal opinion. It's almost like a pop in the VIX at this point. This thing is a company. If we're going off of fundamentals, which is not what Wall Street bets people are doing, right? They're going off hype and momentum, which to their credit can actually be a very effective strategy in the short term. I'm just curious, is Reddit trading higher on this? I'm just curious. Look at that. Reddit is up 5.66% in the pre-market. Now, let me give you a quick warning. When I say that I think that this could potentially be free money, when I look at some of these stocks and I say I think that's not going to last, what I'm not implying is that I'm not saying that this thing cannot go higher. This thing could trade up to $40. When we saw this in 2021, it was crazy, but there's a couple differences, I think, in my personal opinion, between now and 2021. The big obvious one is that everybody is not sitting at home with nothing to do, no sports to watch, and wants something to gamble on, right? So I think that's taken out of the picture. But on top of that, I think you also have a consumer that doesn't have stimulus checks in their pocket. And this is not a company that makes a ton of money. This is not an innovative company. It's a backwards company to the current age, right? People buy their video games online and they buy it. There's not the same massive profit margins that once it existed for GameStop. GameStop used to actually be a crazy company. You guys remember that when we were kids and you could go into physical GameStop locations and you could explore games and buy your Xbox there or buy the newest Modern Warfare, whatever was coming out. Is a different time. The company itself today has been struggling for a long time to not continue to lose money. In fact, their profit margins, you can see here, are non-existent. They in fact oftentimes lose money. They have tough years. I mean, on $1 billion of sales, they made $63 million in the fourth quarter of 2023. It's just not a company that I think has a huge upside potential. I think they lose out to companies like Microsoft, to Activision, to the other gaming companies, Steam, all the different ways that people can purchase games digitally.
Market analysis, free trading courses, edge finder data, and special offers. What do these things all have in common? They're all available for you right now inside of our free Discord. You can click the link down in the description below to join the free Discord today and get access to all of this and more. Stay up to date with all the latest trading information and A1 content. And if you want to upgrade to our Gold VIP Discord that features every single trade that Trader Nick and our other professional analysts take, you can find the links for that in the description as well. So don't wait, go check out the free Discord today.
So anyways, I'm a GameStop bear, I think, to be honest. I don't know how far it goes, though. In the meantime, regardless, you know what they would say? All the Redditors would immediately punch back with, who cares about the fundamentals, boomer, it's going higher. And while that very well may work in the short term, in my opinion, longer term, GameStop goes lower. I don't think it's a $26 stock. I think it's a $10 or less stock. That's my opinion. And with my opinion, I might bet on this. I might take a small short position, but let me be very clear that with my short position, I'm going to do a very small trade on this. And
I'm going to put my whole life savings into this.
We're not going to put our whole life savings into this, but we might. Just kidding. No. I don't know. I just thought it was worth mentioning today. GameStop up 50% is getting everybody excited. But again, here's my short-term prediction. I think it probably goes higher as people get to the desks and see that Reddit's going crazy about this. I think you probably get a little pump. But I think maybe this afternoon, maybe the coming days, there might be a nice sell opportunity on GameStop shares. In my personal opinion, don't touch the stock. Don't listen to what I'm saying. I could be absolutely dead wrong. But again, it's all digital now. No need for actual
that
shops.
Is not financial advice.
Yes, not financial advice, okay? And what this might tell you more of, ignore GameStop for a second. This hype coming back into the picture scares me because these were the sorts of hype figures that we saw, the last, ditch effort before we saw a brutal 30% sell-off in the NASDAQ. S&P, nearly 30%, but it was like 38% in the NASDAQ. So let me point something out to you. In 2021, when everybody was going crazy on GameStop and buying NFTs, don't forget what lesson we all learned. Everybody learned that was the signs of the end of a bull market for the short term. Okay? Remember, 2021, when everybody was getting so excited about GameStop, and that was the year of NFTs and AMC and stuff that just doesn't make sense, and everyone knows it doesn't make sense, but they're buying the hype while it's there. That was the top before we saw, like I said, a brutal correction. And by the way, people weren't buying stuff. The average guy, the average person who doesn't know anything about trading or investing was not buying here. They were buying here because everybody was getting so loud about it right before the fall. And this is a story as old as time. If you watch my channel for a while, I've ranted about this for a long time. Call me a naysayer, call me negative on the subject. I'm trying to warn you that a lot of people lose a lot of money in those sorts of hype events, and nobody comes out and talks about it, right? Everybody talks about it over here when they're making money, and then everyone kind of silently takes a 5-figure loss to their personal income, right? That's not what you actually want to do. You really want to avoid the hive mentality. You want to avoid, frenzy buying like that. And again, it can last a lot longer than people think. That's why I'm, when I point out GameStop up 50% in the pre-market here, just opened, by the way. Let's go take a look at the GameStop opening bell here. GameStop, there it is, gapped up to $26 a share. Wow. And again, might see a squeeze higher now that the retail crowd right now. So let me just warn you what might happen too. I've got a lot of coulda, shoulda, woulda, maybe, who knows, again, I'm just a speculator, but I think this is interesting. The big volume just came in. The retail crowd just got access to trade this today. And so the big money, who is intelligent, who says GameStop is not a profitable, growing, massive company, might have just taken this opening bell as an opportunity to absolutely lean in and sell to that retail volume, the crowd that just popped in. So I'm a spectator. I this is not where I make my money, trading, popping stocks that are, in my opinion, not good stocks to own long term. But it's a story, and I'm a YouTuber, so I got to tell stories. And that's what we do here. We talk about crazy stuff that's going on in the markets. The S&P 500. Let's get back onto our actual regular scheduled broadcasting here. The stock market continues to push up here alongside this GME move. GME move, let me be very clear, is not the reason the stock market is up. GME is such a tiny contribution to. I don't even no, the GME is not even the S&P 500, is it? Can somebody check that for me? Is GME, GameStop, is that in the S&P? I don't think it is. I absolutely do not think it is. It's too small, right? Maybe at one point it probably was. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it's in the S&P 500 even. So it's not contributing to this. It's you know, what can we look at? Well, we can look at yields are down today. Market's going to cheer that, right? Anytime the yields are down right now seems to be a positive catalyst for stocks. So if you're watching the NASDAQ, right? NASDAQ loving that as, you know, who's loving it the most? Exactly who you would expect to. Small companies, right? So small companies, it's not in the S&P. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, so S&P 500 doesn't even have GameStop. So it's definitely not the reason the stock market is up. The reason the stock market is up, the indices are up here this morning, is because yields are actually down. And what's confusing to me about that is why are yields down, but gold is not up? I guess gold is kind of up. If you, again, I like to do this quick test here. Check the line chart. The line chart says gold is up, right? Maybe it's slightly lower, but the daily chart plus the line chart is like daily candles and a line chart really helps you to filter out noise. I think I like to do the line chart check every once in a while. Anyways, what I'm actually trading, what I actually feel pretty confident placing money on. And remember, I mentioned I might short GME, but it might just be for fun and on a very small size, just to be that bad guy who shorted up at the top. Or maybe I shorted at the bottom thinking it was the top. Who knows? You know, those things can go crazy. And again, when I pointed out GameStop up in the pre-market, I fully understand that Redditors who are chasing the stock, buying the stock, they are not trading the stock based on fundamentals. They are trading the stock on short squeezing. But something else to add to the negative. Again, I got to keep talking about this. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. GameStop is pushing higher. This is what we want to see. I wanted to squeeze higher if I was to short it. Another thing that does work against the Redditor crowd here today is this. The outstanding short volume on GameStop, I believe, is way less than it once was. Jamie or somebody else, I don't know how to check this. What's the short like floating shorts or something? Again, guys, bear with me. I'm not really a stock trader. I don't trade individual stocks that much. I buy and hold individual stocks at times, but I don't trade on an individual level. I read an article this morning. The point is that back in 2021, when people, you know, rode this baby for miles, that's a SpongeBob reference. Hold on, that's a SpongeBob reference. Remember, we used to ride those babies for miles, talking about the big stone with moss on it.
You what?
Yeah, some of you guys might know that. Some of you may think I sound crazy, but listen, when this happened in 2021, there was a massive hedge fund short interest open. I read this morning, and I have not been able to, like, the shares floating short, whatever. There's not nearly the same level of short appetite that there was during that short squeeze. What really caused this market to go parabolic was not retail traders pulling together their volume. That did contribute. What really did it was retail traders pulling their volume together, all going at the same stock, and then that triggering margin calls and short coverings from bigger money that was forced to do so, right? Imagine if you were incredibly short on this, your broker calls you up and says, hey, you're floating too big of a loss, you need to close positions. And then you close positions, and closing shorts means buying, right? So buying, and that's what contributed to this big blip up. So as you see this thing go up 54% on the day, I'm not going to lie, I am tempted to be the bad guy and sell this thing at some point. Anyways, I'm wasting too much time on that. That's not where I make my money. Doing, like, having a fun little gamble against the gamblers is not that's not really where I'm going to make my money this year, you know? So anyways, where I was making good money and have started to give back some money is gold. So I'm long gold. I picked up gold last week on Friday. Last couple days, I picked up a short position. I can't remember exactly. I'm sorry, a long position on gold. It moved against me, then popped up. Now it's made nice moves. I've actually trailed my stop loss from this initial risk into profit. So if the market does completely fall apart here, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this while we're live streaming. I'm going to go ahead and trail my stop in a little bit. So 2320. That seems like a fair place to move my stop. We have this level of support. I don't want to stay in the trade if it breaks that level. So let me also just do this really quick. I'm going to, so for those of you who are in our Discord group, I'm gonna trail my stop loss and put out an alert. If you guys would like to join the Discord VIP group, by the way, we're gonna drop a link to our talk to where you can speak directly with someone on our team. If you want to see the trades that I am taking, Frank is taking, and Ivan are taking throughout the week, you can get notified whenever we enter a trade. If that's something that you would like more information about, click this link that's on the screen. If you're watching on Twitter, it should be in the comment down below, pinned there, or so that you could find that. So click that link. You can message someone on my staff about it. So I'm going to go ahead and trail this stop a little bit further into profit here on gold. So give me just a moment to do that. I'm looking to trail my stop in about 1.18% from my entry, 1.18%. So we're going to go for on GLD 214.70, 214.70, and good till canceled order. Let me just make sure 650 shares of GLD, modify, and there we go. All right, so I've just trailed my stop loss, and what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to pull up my MetaTrader where I am mirroring the trade on a demo just so I can track it a little easier. I have this little script. I'll show you in just a second. I have a little script that allows me to share my trade alerts a lot easier. Okay, 2320 is what I said. So let's move stops into 2320. 2320. It is a big week though, Ivan. You've got in front of us here, we've got PPI, CPI. What are your thoughts going into this week? What are you watching? I could pull up the charts for you, but I'm curious what your plan is for this week.
Of course, also we have PPI, we have CPI. We also have GDP out of Japan, out of Europe.
Yeah.
So of course the highlight is of course CPI. I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm just waiting until that. I have a short on euro.
Okay.
With a stop of 108.15, I think. So
okay,
yeah, what are we? 12 pips away. 12 pips away from surplus at the moment. So yeah.
So you're watching the. I imagine you're watching the dollar heavily this week. As you mentioned, you got several key things going on this week. You've got retail sales as well, GDP numbers. You've got just a ton of stuff. This is probably one of the bigger CPI events, Ivan. This week's CPI event, especially with now the Fed Watch tool, I think has us expecting a rate cut in September, and potentially even a second one for the U.S. in November or December, right? I think that's right.
I'm sure you're correct about September. I haven't checked December yet, but yeah, there might be a second one there.
Let's do it. Let's go check, just because I'm curious. I believe there's a second one in December. Let me zoom out here. So if I go to probabilities and we go to the meeting December. Okay, yeah, it seems like there's a possibility, not like a high probability, but a possibility that we could see a second rate cut in November or December based on the probabilities calculation table here. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But Ivan, what do you think? Do you think we get rate cuts this year? Do you think September is, because if you're dollar bullish, you might lean more towards like 1 or 0 rate cuts this year, right?
Yeah, I'm at 0. And where I am, I'm very inflation. Also, I'm very data dependent. So if we come very weak on Wednesday, I'll flip. But we currently have a series of higher inflation, so
Yes.
that's where we at. That's where we go.
Yeah, and I knew you were going to say that, so I pulled this chart up just for our reference. So check this out, Ivan. As you mentioned, inflation has not. The market is like so. We've seen this set up a couple times where the market
Hmm.
gets so excited that the Fed is going to be dovish, and even though some of the data doesn't necessarily support that just yet. The market loves to try and front run what the Fed is going to say, but the Fed itself, as you just said, is very data dependent. And when we look at the data that we have, the big one being CPI, it's trended up in the last 3 reports. There is so much pressure, I think, that the market is kind of putting on this CPI to come in way lighter. And if it doesn't come in way lighter, what will we see, Ivan? Where's the dollar going? What's going to happen to everything else?
The pricing in of this morning is dollar weakness. So everything is set up for dollar weakness. And if we don't get that, it's going to be a bit more impulsive move than normal. I think we can at least look at a 100 pip move. But by the end of the day, at least 50 as a minimum of 50 pips in the reaction. So that's even more fun for me because I need a lower low on euro, or all the other dollar pairs for that matter. But I feel like I have binded myself to the pole of dollar bullishness. So I can stick to it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I'm kind of in the same boat going into this week. When it comes to the dollar index specifically, from a technical perspective, we have this level of support that even though you had the light jobs number, this was the day, right? This was the light NFP print that came in, shot lower, but by the end of the day had bounced back and went on a couple days move higher. I don't think that you're really, in the clear for dollar bearishness unless you break out of this level and we close somewhere underneath this key level of support. Now that's the technical perspective, but the fundamental side, Ivan, is probably what you would need if you're going to flip to bearish. And I'm saying me too, because I'm kind of leaning more dollar bullish than not, is if you're going to see a dollar bearish move really start to materialize, you need to see a candle close like this. And what's probably going to happen to get us there would be PPI and or CPI coming in lower than forecasts and really solidly saying, okay, now you've got the economy cooling a little bit, but you've also got inflation cooling. But again, the whole market thinks that the number is going to come in cool. So as you mentioned, if you do get a surprise on that factor, the dollar could easily break through recent structure highs because again, the market thinks it's going to go lower, right? The dollar is bearish right now in the short term because people think inflation is going to come in light. Is that a fair breakdown?
I just mentioned, I just thought about one thing first is PPI comes in on Tuesday. I think that's going to be a muted reaction. But yeah, if CPI comes in higher, I definitely see that being dollar bullish. I don't know how long that dollar bullishness is going to continue because the whole market seems to be quite risk on right now. Maybe except for your gold move, but it seems like they just decided it's going to be a risk on at this point in life. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
S&P 500 is making it almost a new higher high now.
Yeah, there's a lot of appetite for being risk on right now, and that's a good point. I mean, you had to say it. I mean, risk on 101 is GME to the moon, and oh my gosh, we're at 33. Ivan, it's up 90%. I am so sorry, but I want to short this thing so bad. Am I just an idiot for wanting to we saw how it happened in 2021, but okay, let me ask you this, Ivan. You have to pick one or the other, long or short. Which one are you picking? Are you on my side, the bad guy side, or are you a Redditor to the moon?
I'll buy it.
Okay, well, just so for the record, Ivan is long term. In 20 years, he thinks GME is going to be higher than this. And no, I mentioned this earlier, Ivan. This is not where I make my money, playing around with individual stocks. But a 90% move, to your point about risk on, I mean, that is risk on 101, as GameStop was the peak of risk on before, the start of the peak, I suppose. Remember, I've made this point earlier. GameStop was early 2021 through 2021. And so, risk on sentiment can last a lot longer than people think. That's why I haven't pulled the trigger on a short just yet. But I am watching it, and I think I'm going to have to do it. So, I don't know. We'll keep tabs on it. I'll update you on what I do.
Did you know we do a live trading show Monday through Friday with guests from all over the world? To get notified when we go live, click the bell button next to the subscribe button or check in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have helpful, free content in the description below and on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you tomorrow.